morning and welcome to University of Toronto International Summer Academy podcast series. My name is Jelena and I'm your host. This morning in the studio, I have students from Global Citizenship Program, and they're going to be sharing their research on food insecurity, specifically looking at California. But before we dive into their research, I would like to go around the room and just get a chance to get to know who's in the room. So if you can introduce yourselves, please.
Да, здравствуйте, меня зовут Анна. I'm from Potsdam, Germany. Ich bin aus Potsdam, Deutschland.
Bom dia, eu sou a Bella e eu sou do Brasil. Good morning, my name is Bella and I'm from Brazil.
Hola, mi nombre es Luciana Ponce y soy de Mérida, Yucatán. Hello, my name is Luciana Ponce and I'm from Mérida, Yucatán.
Xin chào, tôi tên là Đại. Hello, I'm Đại. I'm from Vietnam.
Wonderful. Thank you so much and welcome once again. So I would like to start us off by talking about the current situation related to food insecurity in California. And I know that your group is also specifically looking at how wildfires are contributing to food insecurity. So let's start with that.
We all know in 2025, California burned. During the month of January, Los Angeles and San Diego counties were clouded by smoke. The state suffered tremendous losses, infrastructural and human. So let's take a closer look at the data provided by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection about the most destructive fires of that month, the Palisadas and Eaton fires. Together, they burned some overwhelming 37,469 acres in Los Angeles County. Blazing for 24 days, they caused a collective amount of damage of 2,047 and destroyed 16,251 residential and commercial structures and cost us 30 civilian lives. While it's clear to everybody that these fires greatly affected many individual lives, causing desperation and destruction, why are we, the GCP program, talking about this? There are two major reasons.
So, we'll all know it, The fires were all over social media. They were all over the news. There were concerts for it. Celebrities were talking about it. Pretty much everybody was talking about it. And as someone from Mexico, I know this is not something new. It's not something that just came out of the blue. It's something that has happened before. So that really got us thinking, what is actually going on in LA? Why are there so many fires? And what are these fires causing to its community?
You're totally right, Luciana. The phenomenon is quite common in California due to environmental factors that promote dry and hot weather.
So, yes, the wildfires aren't something new, as they already said, but since the early 1970s, the area burned by them has increased by 5 times. This dramatic rise has been especially noticeable in recent years, with massive and destructive fires in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah, thanks, Bella. Naturally, as global citizens, we would pay attention to how climate factors and their escalation affect food production around the world. Wait, did I just say food production? I did. California, as I learned during our research, not only produces future movie stars, but also food.
That is correct. Over 1/3 of U.S. vegetable and 75% of U.S. fruits are cultivated in California. Grapes, lettuce, strawberries, tomatoes, carrot. The list goes on.
Thanks, Dad. However, California's agricultural significance isn't just domestically recognized. The Golden State exports products like almonds, pistachios, and wine. Assessed by the California Department of Food and Agriculture report of 23-24, their products account for, wait for it, a whopping share of 12.8% in the total U.S. agricultural exports of 2023. That's huge. Lastly, I'd like to give you one more precise example of the farming value California has. Central Valley, taking up 47,000 square kilometers of Californian soil, accounts for fewer than 1% of total U.S. farmland, but simultaneously produces 8% of the U.S. agricultural input. As you now hopefully learned, California is essential in providing for the U.S. and also quite successful on an international basis. But circling back to the beginning of my explanation, to the wildfires, you can see that it faces its fair share of challenges too.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that so well and giving us a whole overview of the current situation. Now, in terms of the leading causes of the wildfires, what did you find out in your research so far?
So, as we mentioned, they aren't something new in California, but why are they getting worse? The main factor is an eightfold increase in summer forest fires, and a big reason for that is climate change, specifically human induced global warming. As temperatures rise, vegetation dries out more quickly, especially during California's long, hot summers.
But it doesn't end there. In the fall, warmer conditions increase the chances that vegetation is still dry when strong seasonal wind blow through. This wind can quickly turn a small spark into a massive wildfire. And the relationship there here is not linear, meaning the drier thing gets, the faster and more extreme fires can become.
Climate change caused by human activity is already playing a major role in intensifying wildfires activities across the state, especially in Sierra Nevada and North Coast forests. And unfortunately, this trend is expected to continue in the upcoming decades. Next, about the latest fires we've been seeing. Recent fires have been fueled by even more extreme drought conditions, and one big contributor is a phenomenon known as heat dome. That's when a mass of hot air gets trapped over a region for days or even weeks, making the land underneath hotter and drier than usual. So, when you combine heat domes, dry vegetation, and strong winds, you get a recipe for extreme and uncontrollable fires. And sadly, we address the root causes, including climate change. We can expect even more of this in the future.
Thank you, Bella. Now, we all know the effects of wildfires on the communities, on the environment. What about specifically looking at food insecurity and food production? And also, I'm curious, did you find who's most affected by this?
Yeah, totally. But before I get into that, I want to give you some background. Okay, so as mentioned before, California produces more than 1/3 of the US vegetables and 3/4 of their fruits. However, consumers are less likely to buy fruits that have been in ashes, and fires can also sunburn fruits, which basically makes them unmarketable. This deeply affects California's market since they have a very market dependency on them. And also, many other states are also affected, such as Montana, which deeply relies on California for fruits and vegetables. But I want to break it down a little bit more. Wildfires have a direct effect on soil. An uncontrollable wild burn can yield heat levels above 400 degrees. This temperature can cause irreversible damage to the land. When the soil is burned at such high temperatures, the organic matter is incinerated. Depending on the intensity and duration of the fire, the recuperation time can be up to 3 years for the soil to fully recover all its nutrients. The hard, ashy residue that is left on the soil decreases its ability to absorb water, which increases the likelihood of runoff. Because the soil can no longer take water in, there is an increased risk for landslides and flooding, which contribute to contaminating drinking water. Now, let's take a look into Ventura County. Ventura County is home to 118,000 acres of prime farmland and more than half of total harvest acreage in the country for avocado, lemon, celery, and strawberries. And it was particularly hit hard during the 2017 Thomas Fire.
So, Jelena, you asked who was affected the most? So let's bring in a community voice. Deborah Brokaw Jackson from the Brokaw Ranch Company reports in the Ventura County Annual Crop and Livestock Report from 2017 that their ranch lost an approximate 80% of their avocado crops in wildfire. That's over 60 acres of their farm. 40% of their avocado trees are estimated to be irreversibly damaged. To make matters worse, avocados take a long time to recover, and that is about 6 years, as Brokaw Jackson assesses. Notice how short blazes can affect vital farming resources for a really long amount of time?
These fires inflicted severe damages on hillside ranches, consuming forages needed for livestock, destroying barns, irrigation systems, equipment, and machinery. All of these damages in infrastructure add up to millions in property losses. An example of this is the Camp Fire that resulted in a loss of more than $26 billion in total damages. This sum not only includes immense agricultural losses, but also the firefighting cost. Now, the group that is more affected because of the nature of the problem are farmers and ranches, because they're not only losing their livelihoods, losing their incomes, but they're just purely losing their homes.
Thank you. We covered the current situation. We looked at the causes and the effects and the demographics of who is affected the most. And I know that part of your project is the advocacy campaign where you are actually focusing on the solutions and also not only analyzing the solutions using the 3 pillars of sustainability framework, but also giving your own recommendations of how this can be prevented or solved. But right now, what I'm curious is, in your research so far, what kind of solutions did you come across, both in terms of top-down and bottom-up solutions?
So first of all, the effect is tremendous. As Luciana stated, 40,000 of acres of land are burned. And like some farmers say, 80% of their avocado are lost. So California's Central Valley face intensifying environmental threat from extreme weather events, including drought, flood, and wildfire. These events endanger soil health, water security, and long-term agriculture sustainability. A combined approach, top-down policy and bottom-up community innovation, offer a resilient path forward.
The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, SGMA, established in 2014, is the California's top-down response to long-lasting groundwater overexploitation. Central Valley aquifers, especially in Kern County, have been severely depleted due to prolonged droughts and excessive pumping.
SGMA mandated the formation of Groundwater Sustainability Agency to develop and implement groundwater sustainability plans to adapt to local conditions. So in 2023, Kern County led recharge effort with 2.9 million acre feet, accounting for over half of California's total volume. Techniques like in-lieu recharge, spreading water on farmland, and recharge bathing are being scaled to restore aquifer balance. While SGMA's success depends on wet years water availability, its legal framework ensures long-term responsibility and nationwide coordination. However, SGMA implementation must be fast to prevent further ecological damage. Agencies need better communication, funding for infrastructure, and inclusive decision-making that reflect the need of farming communities which experience major issues. Next up, we have a bottom-up solution. So at a grassroots level, Yo Villa Farm in the South Fresno exemplified bottom-up innovation. This community garden, launched by Fresno Metro Ministry and Fresno Housing, motivate farm workers and residents to practice regenerative agriculture on formerly vacant land.
So, here residents cultivate cover crops, manage compost, and use low-input techniques that improve soil health and water retention. The garden includes 118 rentable plots for families, 8 farm incubator programs for BIPOP growers, and native habitats and fruit trees to enhance biodiversity. This model not only recovers the degraded land, but also addresses food injustice by giving farm workers access to fresh produce as well as an entrepreneurial opportunity. It is an evident example of how local knowledge and stewardship can counteract the environmental effects of extreme weather events, while building community resilience.
So Your Villa Farm is part of a broader movement supported by the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, which fund inclusive agriculture innovation across the Central Valley.
Next up, to mitigate the growing wildfires, it takes everyone's action. By the U.S. Department of the Interior, we are advocated to have awareness and constantly update on weather and drought conditions. Acknowledging the flammability of vegetables, Californians can avoid unintended wildfire by prohibiting any activities that involve sparks.
Inclusively, camping activities should be done properly. Therefore, the campfire must be built in an open space, which is far from any lift, and extinguished fully those until cold. As data from recreation.government, a tree planning and reservation board for U.S. public land, show that camping reservation number nearly 3.3 million in 2020. Moreover, everyone should regularly check on their vehicle component and make sure no flammable are nearby as car exhaust can reach up to 1000 Celsius. So regardless, climate change is inevitable for short term, therefore on a bigger scale, laws can be implemented to encourage farmers to integrate trees for agroforestry to be widespread. As trees are mixed with crops and animals, it can act as a fire break, a barrier that protects the dry vegetable from burn. As a response to unpredictability of climate change and drought duration. Not only so, agroforestry practice can provide a range of benefits, including increased biodiversity, improved soil health, reduced soil erosion, enhanced water quality, carbon sequestration, and increased economic opportunities for farmers. So, in conclusion, by mixing the SGMA regulatory power with community-driven regenerative practice, California's Central Valley can build a more sustainable and equitable agriculture future. Furthermore, agroforestry will even further lower the chances of wildfire and increase biodiversity. These solutions complement each other. Policies set the guardrails while the local action replenish the soil with life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So sadly, we're running out of time, but I wanted to thank you all once again for sharing your research and also sharing it with all of us, teaching us about how we can not only prevent, but also maybe perhaps contribute to being part of the solutions in the future. Thank you all for listening, for showing up. And once again, thank you for being here. Have a great day. Bye.